What is Ibogaine and what does Trump have to do with it? So reportedly, Joe Rogan sent Trump a text highlighting the results of a new study that show benefits of Ibogaine for veteran combats with PTSD, as well as those with opioid addictions. And Trump reportedly wrote back, "Sounds great. Do you want FDA approval? Let's do it." So as a result, within a week, there was an executive order signed to the Department of Health and Human Services, so where RFK hangs out, directing at least $50 million to the research of Ibogaine and other psychedelic substances for PTSD. And this would allow data to be shared between the FDA and the VA systems as well. As a result, there were 3 separate priority vouchers issued, and this reduces the potential approval time from months to a couple of weeks. And these specifically were for psilocybin and a form of MDMA, and also potentially another one for LSD for PTSD and treatment-resistant depression. I should note, though, that I recently released a podcast episode about Sanfilippo syndrome, which has been waiting months and months for the second time for approval for a cure for a terminal, life-altering illness. And so the FDA's commissioner, Dr. Marty Makary, has said that certain drugs will be approved quickly if they are in line with national priorities. So now the FDA is approving the first clinical trial in the US of Ibogaine to assess for improvement in PTSD and potentially substance abuse. Now, these Ibogaine clinics have been open in several countries, including Mexico, New Zealand, parts of the West Indies. Treatment typically costs anywhere between $15,000 and $20,000 for the duration of the treatment. So now the big study that Joe Rogan was highlighting when he was communicating with Trump was a study that used a combination of Ibogaine and magnesium for combat veterans who had a combination of TBI and PTSD. I will highlight the study above. It was published in 2024, and there were promising results. However, it was a very specific population, very small sample, no control group, and it was not a randomized control trial. And the reason that they used magnesium in addition to the Ibogaine is because historically there's been a concern of cardiotoxicity. So people were dying from heart attacks essentially, or some kind of heart failure. In fact, the WHO, the World Health Organization, has researched the potential of Ibogaine for substance use disorders, but ultimately discontinued because of the risk of death. And they have noted a lack of randomized control trials and any proven efficacy or safety. In fact, Ibogaine was actually researched briefly in the 90s for substance use disorders. However, it was discontinued due to deaths that were occurring elsewhere outside of the trial, but where people were dying from the cardiotoxicity. It should be known that psilocybin, LSD, MDMA, and Ibogaine are currently all Schedule I illegal substances. None currently have shown efficacy through randomized control trials or shown proper safety. So ketamine is a Schedule III substance and is only approved in certain states for psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy with very specific and rigid protocols with medical supervision. And then there's been a lot of interest in kratom, which is also a Schedule I illegal substance, which may also be beneficial for those with substance use disorders, but again, not enough research and not enough safety data. In 2024, the FDA was doing some research on MDMA or Molly ecstasy, but this was discontinued secondary to adverse side effects. And apparently there was also reported pressure to report positive effects, and the participants didn't feel like the study was objective. So all things to take into consideration. It is a promising area of research, but it seems like it was fast-tracked. It seems to be backed by a lot of politicians and funding, and it's something we don't want to rush because we really don't understand these drugs to the fullest extent. And many attempts at approval for these types of medication in the past have been conflictual because of the potential for death or serious side effect. Also, for those drugs that have some kind of approval, the psilocybin and the ketamine, the effects have been inconsistent and really individual dependent, and there's still significant risks. So do with that what you may, but I just wanted to share.